Thank you for tuning in. I'm Watch Eric. On today's video, I'm going to be going over the latest acquisition to my watch collection. It's going to be my 1982 birth year Rolex GMT Pepsi. So I just recently ran into this watch and I am super excited. First of all, because it has the Jubilee band. And like I mentioned before on one of my previous reviews about the new style Pepsi with the Jubilee band, although it's nice with the whole Maxi Case, I feel that the watch that I like best with the Jubilee band is a vintage Pepsi. I'm very excited about this watch. When I did my collection video, I'm not even sure if I had mentioned in there that I wanted one, but I felt that it would perfectly balance out the fact that I have my 1982 birth sub. It would be nice to have a 1982 Pepsi. And with my luck, I actually ran into it. Now, the first thing that I thought about was that perhaps maybe the Jubilee band would be aftermarket. But I did some research and I looked at it and it has all the correct stampings on the bracelet and the end links. Most importantly is the clasp has the right code for 1982. The vintage life is a dangerous life, mostly because, you know, there's a lot of variations within these watches that change the prices. Also, there's aftermarket parts for these watches and you can almost not tell the difference. So it's not so much that I bought it blind, but I bought it with a gut feeling. It just looked right. The sellers seemed very honest and legit. And the price was okay, so I figured, okay, what's the worst that can happen? The dial's not the right dial, I'll take the risk. It's not many times you can find actually a birth year watch. Some of the times the serial numbers will have a variation, you know? Depending on what chart you look at, it can be an 83, 84, 82. The bracelet is what helped me say, okay, we're on the right track, 1982. Now, let's talk a little bit about the dial. The dial is a Mark I matte dial. Never been touched, it's perfect. The only thing that I realized about this watch that seems to have been changed is somewhere along the line there, they reloomed the hands. That's very easy to tell because although the hands have a nice little patina to it, when you shine a light to it, it glows. By this time, it shouldn't have any glow. The bezel insert seems to be a service insert because the back is blue instead of red. Condition on the bezel edge also very nice as well. Glass, of course, has been replaced because when you look at my 1967 GMT, the glass is destroyed and I kind of like that whole scratched up look. Now, this is a 16750, which is the transitional year where they started to transition from the previous 1675 to the newer model. One of the most popular versions of this watch have a modern dial that has the white gold rings around the markers. You see that a lot more often, and the beauty of this model, in my opinion, is that they made it for only about 8 years. So hopefully it will be only rise in price throughout the future. That being said, I'm super pumped about the watch. When I had my watchmaker open it, someone apparently did a service. It was handwritten with the marker on the case back that said 1992. So I didn't expect to buy it, and honestly, I promised myself I wouldn't even buy a watch this year. Mostly because I have a new business and I have to put the most money into the business as possible. But it's not every day you find a clean 1982 Pepsi on a Jubilee. Condition on the bracelet is good because, as you know, some of these old Jubilees get worn out and they become super slinky. This thing right here actually has a nice little curve, but not too much. Whenever I see one that's way too straight, I worry that it's either an aftermarket bracelet or perhaps maybe off of a newer Datejust, which happens very often and would be fine as well. But this one's all original. I'm super happy. The dial has a nice yellowing on it with an even patina that gives it a good color. Bezel, it's worn out, but then again, I don't necessarily want such a brand new bezel on such a vintage looking watch. Something I forgot to mention, it has the correct 3075 movement, which is the total different movement that changes from the 1675. The stacks of the hand, the order that the hands get stacked completely changes. So that's something you want to check. If you have a 16750, make sure it has the correct movement because I have seen it before on the blogs and the forums that people had the wrong movement. But anyways, another thing I want to say is that I had to make a sacrifice. You know, Technically, I wasn't supposed to buy a watch this year, but I did decide that I'm going to sacrifice one of my Kermits in order to fund this project. And I just think at the end of the day, it's gonna make my collection a little bit more dynamic with more variety. Another funny thing is that when the person actually pitched me this watch, it was on a distressed leather hipster strap. You know, I call them hipster strap. And it got my attention. I had no idea that it had a Jubilee band. But in the background of the picture, I actually saw a Jubilee band. So I took a risk and I bought it. I bought it thinking I was just gonna get the head. Sure enough, the moment I got it, I put the Jubilee band on, done. I love it. I sent the picture back to the owner and he said, man, it really looks good on that Jubilee band. Ever since I've owned it, I've been wearing it on that leather strap. I'm super excited and I hope you like it too. So feel free to comment below how you feel about my 1982 Pepsi. And if you like this video, please like and share. Also, subscribe to my channel.